I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Jonas Simanavicius, the co-founder and CTO of Syntropy. Jonas, welcome to the show, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm really excited for our discussion today on Syntropy. If we could just kick it off with a little bit of your background in the space and how that led to you co-founding Syntropy, and then we'll dive into the details.
Sure. So I have a background in software engineering as well as financial markets, working for investment banking firms like JP Morgan and Royal Bank of Scotland, as well as entrepreneurship afterwards. And then we started Noya nearly 2 years ago. We started as a distributed content delivery network, effectively trying to deliver data from the closest location to the user. But we found core internet problems along the way, which led us to develop internet routing technology and Syntropy at the end. So happy to be doing internet routing and related technologies ever since.
Definitely. And can you dive a little bit deeper into Syntropy, just giving a brief overview and the goals of the platform for those who aren't familiar?
Sure. So Syntropy is a thin distributed layer of technology on top of public internet enabled by blockchain. So it gives an intelligence and sort of a bird's eye view for the current internet. We often refer to it as the Waze for the internet. So, however, much like when in heavy traffic, without an intelligent system, there are local roads, underutilized roads, which could be taken, but you just don't know about it and what would happen. So most cars are happy to take the highest congested highways at the peak times or when accidents happen. So we also believe every packet sent on the internet should be encrypted by default, and the current internet fails to do that. So we already offer a platform for all developers to build applications with secure and optimized internet out of the box. And we'll also soon have a technology for decentralized applications and decentralized world to start using this technology and all of these features as well.
Very interesting. And yeah, it seems that as the internet continues to grow, and especially in the last few years, more problems are popping up. And maybe the way that the internet was built when the foundation was built in the 90s just wasn't ready for global mass adoption, and that's part of the reason why Syntropy is solving these problems. So could you give your personal vision and the vision of Syntropy on what the future of the internet would look like when all of these problems have been solved?
Sure. So the internet is operating on a foundation that is decades old, as you've just said. So the core protocols were designed just to reach the destination with no built-in security, and it's not performance oriented. So it wasn't meant to deal with the amounts of data we send now as well. So it's plagued by connections that are slow, unreliable, and insecure. And that leaves for companies and individuals to invest billions of dollars into making it secure and efficient, and it still fails to accommodate the ever-growing demand of data. And at the same time, decentralized applications and blockchains in particular still have only centralized technologies to rely on. Thus is still failing to be truly decentralized. And Syntropy's routing protocol works on top of the existing internet, to eliminate all of these deficiencies. So first, it has a routing protocol, which uses thousands of servers and devices around the world to sort of harvest and utilize all of these vast available segments to improve the performance and avoid those outages. And it uses blockchain technology and latest research on tokenomics to make it both decentralized and optimized. So my view of the internet of the future is automatically optimized and decentralized system ready not only to be used by companies and individuals, but for applications and decentralized applications, Internet of Things, autonomous cars, robots, and so on.
Definitely. And that sounds like the optimal solution as we work towards there. And the speed of the internet and technology and Moore's Law is just getting faster and faster. It's growing really quickly. So I think the 2020s is going to be the year for the revolutionization of the internet. And you talked about there's a lot of problems with the foundation that was built from the internet. what are some of those main challenges that you have to work with, and you're not able to, just remove that foundation that has to sort of stay there and all the cracks in it, and how do you work around, solving these issues without being able to just build a new foundation? So, like, what are the main challenges that you have to solve for?
So I guess the most challenging part is to grasp the full spectrum of technologies and events that need to happen to enable a new and decentralized internet, which is optimized for performance, secure by default, and also working on the current infrastructure. So to get everything in line is quite a challenge still, but we have grown both as an organization, and we've done a lot of R&D and technology to put all of those pieces in place. And as I said, we already started with developer adoption, business adoption, and we'll start with decentralized technologies. And all of these pieces sort of need to tie in together and in the right order. And it needs a lot of support from community, open source community as well, to make that happen. So it's really a combination of technologies, because internet is just such a vast technology used by literally everyone every day. That it's really quite difficult to change it without changing, the actual protocol, but just making it better.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple different points on how you're looking to optimize the internet, more privacy, more security, more scalability so it's not slow. And it seems with the recent issues just in the last year, a lot of this has come to light to people that aren't really familiar with how the internet works technically, but all of a sudden these issues are becoming apparent to people that are just using social media and using messaging platforms. And one of the recent examples was WhatsApp looking at changing their privacy policy to have more data collection of its users, and that saw an actual exodus of millions of people from WhatsApp moving to more secure messaging systems like Signal, for example. But that actually started overflowing and breaking Signal's servers, which I'm guessing they're on Amazon or some centralized infrastructure, and then all of a sudden that technology wasn't able to work. There's multiple issues at hand there, but is that something that through Syntropy these different problems will be solved, and how exactly will they be solved?
So both issues you've just mentioned are addressed by Syntropy. So first of all, Syntropy enables developers to build applications which can easily make secure connections by default. So even if application developers fail to protect their networks or infrastructure security, so the security and privacy is preserved, because using Syntropy, all data transmission is by default encrypted using latest open source encryption technologies. And we want this to be the new standard. So as opposed to applications doing whatever and then, the engineers making sure the infrastructure is solid, we want every connection by default to be secure out of the box. And secondly, internet outages, as you mentioned, they happen every day for many applications and services, from the biggest giants to the little applications. And our technology, the routing technology, would automatically direct the load to less congested networks, and in effect, making internet more efficient as a whole and avoiding outages for those particular applications. So in your example, developers making new chat applications, new data transmission applications, they would have such a much easier job ensuring those connections are secure. And once outages happen, our technology would try to automatically mitigate that as much as possible, given the underlying infrastructure.
That's great, and I want to dive into the Syntropy Network and where you're at right now. Can you talk about, I saw that the pre-launch happened for the main network, which is great. So congratulations to that. When did you start building the network, and what has been the most challenging part of the process up to this point?
So as I mentioned, we started building more than 2 years ago, and there was a lot of R&D done, a lot of technologies being built, as well as finding the right target fit for the businesses to adopt that technology. So it's not only, so it actually gets developer adoption, open source community adoption. And when you mentioned the pre-launch network, we launched, I believe in October or something as we were developing, and we launched on more than 200 different providers in more than 600 different locations. And what we found is all types of optimizations which can be done. So what's super interesting for me is we found that more than 80% of internet paths could be optimized.
Wow.
And the optimizations are everywhere, between a single cloud provider, between different cloud providers, between various different regions, both geographically, between different infrastructures. They're of various sorts of sizes and time frames. So that just shows that internet doesn't have like a single problem in a single area or a single company. It's just suboptimal as a whole. And as long as you can make those changes, make those routing changes more dynamic and more efficient, you can always find optimizations to be done. And we're super interested to having thousands of nodes on our system. So I can't even imagine how many different routes becomes available to make those congestions go away.
Definitely, and it seems like it's a constant battle to increase optimization. And I'm curious in the pre-launch in October, you mentioned you already had hundreds of nodes and separated out, which is great. How did you solve, and how do you continually solve for the optimal security and decentralization and scalability of the network? And did you face trade-offs between having a more scalable network versus more decentralized network? And are there the limitations within Syntropy?
So, there's a couple of parts to it really. So with the optimizations, we have a routing protocol which continuously measures latency and other network performance measures between the various different routers and devices in the system, which can be used as relays, and continuously choose the best path for data to travel. So, the protocol makes sure there's the best path always chosen for data transmission. With the scalability, you need a lot of nodes and a lot of those internet segments available for you to be used. And for that, the only way to do that is really to build a decentralized ecosystem where everyone can participate and everyone can sort of sell their infrastructure or make unutilized infrastructure used for someone who needs that at the moment. And here our blockchain is really the best and only available technology to do that, which wasn't available back in the days when the original internet was commercialized. So we have a token-based ecosystem to incentivize that there's always enough capacity in the system and there's always enough nodes to be utilized, and they always have enough incentives to stay in the system and make it also economically sound and secure.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I'm fascinated by the token ecosystem and how that allows anybody to actually become a part, be incentivized, and start growing the network as a community. And now, could you talk a little bit about the Noya Token and how does that fit in for people that are looking to help grow the network? How does it involved in the ecosystem, and does it create a sustainable ecosystem?
Yeah, so as I said, we have a quantitative research team working on our new tokenomics model, which proves a relationship between amount of data being transferred through the network and the token value, thus enabling a sustainable ecosystem where there's always enough incentives to lure in enough nodes to provide capacity to the network, as well as that token to be used as a utility, sort of a gas for the internet, as we call it, to provide economic security and stability to the network. So the goal, which is only being enabled by blockchain technologies, is to provide actors like routers and devices and servers to connect and sell their spare internet capacity for the good of the world, and as well as actors to stay in the system to using the token to make it economically sound and secure, so that none of the actors in the system is wants to lie or cheat, and that is ensured by the economics. And also there's the token can be used by both companies, users, and decentralized systems, applications, and blockchains themselves to utilize that utility, because currently, as I mentioned, decentralized applications are not able to use centralized company services like, we know the Cloudflares, the Amazons. They need to rely on those, and thus failing to be truly decentralized. So the only way to have a performance optimized and decentralized internet is really by using blockchain technologies and a token economics, which makes it economically sound and secure as well.
Definitely, and thanks for that, Jonas. Now, moving forward to the future for 2021, Syntropy, as you continue to grow, do you have any major milestones or a big roadmap plan for what you're looking to release and continue to grow the network this year?
Yes, for sure. So up to now, it was really the homework. And just recently, when we launched Syntropy Stack, it's now available for developers to use already. There's going to be a lot of development tools made for developer adoption. So we're going to engage huge open source community and also incentivize them to start building on Syntropy Stack, as well as building the tools to use it more easier. Then it's going to be the year of business adoption for us, gaining users, real traction, operational experience. And I guess most importantly is we'll also start having decentralized services to provide the same functionality for decentralized applications and blockchains, to make them autonomously being able to create secure and optimized connections. So just like data oracles are now seen as essential part for the blockchain ecosystem, like interoperable blockchains, are now inevitable for the blockchain ecosystem. We think any blockchain and decentralized application needs to have a secure and optimized connection layer, which can be used in a decentralized fashion to make those systems, communicate between each other. So this year, we're planning all of that to happen, and we're really excited about it.
Big plans ahead, and it looks like the internet is going through some major changes, and Syntropy is likely to play a big role in that. So all the best with all of those plans this year. If there are people that are also looking to get involved, either develop, help grow the ecosystem, learn more about Syntropy, what's the best way for them to reach out and get involved?
Sure. So we have a Medium blog where we write about internet technologies, our plans as well. So it's super interesting to read. We also have our Telegram channel. So that's the primary source of contact, where we have amazing community managers who will direct you to any sources of information you need, as well as a really welcoming community, which help new people to learn about Syntropy and the internet in general. There's also Twitter. You can find me on Twitter personally. You can follow our Syntropy channels as well, and that will direct you also to all the places you want to read about us.
Sounds great, Jonas. I will leave those links in the description box below. Thank you so much for the time, for the interview. All the best on Syntropy moving forward this year, and let's follow up in the near future.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.